Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much, and I'm excited. This is the first meeting with everything you see, the sound in the back. I'm pretty sure Chris can even hear us back there now. And we want to make sure you have the best experience. We want to make sure that you can hear what's going on, see what's going on, be involved as much as possible. So I'm excited. I want to thank Kevin, thank staff, for everybody. They did a phenomenal job. I think council's going to enjoy it. We have a TV here. They can see a little closer than the screen. We got the TV here for that group. I think we have everybody covered in this building. So that's exciting. As always, call to order, pledge of allegiance. Please stand. The flag is here. And I'm going to have Veronica lead us in the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Front row. Darn row.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job.
That face was priceless. That face was priceless.
So on item 2, and also we have the agenda in the back if you want to grab it. We'll move right into public comments. Normally, the public comment is 3 minutes long. It's about, for work sessions, the agenda in front of us. Because that's what we advertise. When you get up, we are doing something a little different. The microphone is back where Kevin is. You're going to be on camera, TV. So please state your name, your address, and then you have 3 minutes. Just talk to us, tell us what it is. We'll take your information and follow up with every questions we have to answer. So we have one already. He's running to the podium. Nah.
Hi there. Chad Tice. I actually live in Owings, but I'm the vice president of Twin Beach Players and the board president for the Arts Council of Calvert County. I'm going to beg a little indulgence of you. I spoke to Linda. My comments are not about what's on our current agenda, but they are about what could be on the next agenda. As Twin Beach Players, we had 2 great performances, 2 great programs this year. One was 12 Angry Jurors. The other was The Addams Family. Over 1,000 people attended those shows. They came from everywhere in Southern Maryland to Northern Maryland, all the way from Wisconsin and up to New York. So they brought real tourist dollars in. It's been one of the things that I know to be true about this community, that we have a thriving art scene. But North Beach actually has one of the highlights, one of the gems. They have public murals, public sculptures, but they have Twin Beach Players. And that is really dedicated to this area. However, the problem is Twin Beach Players does not have a stable home. We are graciously given time by the Boys and Girls Club to use their gym, but that takes away from the Boys and Girls Club using the gym to help children. We need a performing arts center in this community, a black box, just something where we can really start focusing the arts and give Twin Beach Players a home. I have a quick ask. I would like to come back and make a presentation next work session about the idea of funding a black box theater in North Beach. The second ask is that you be open to listening to that pitch and thinking about it for this budget cycle, what it could take, and what you're willing to do. And then the third and final ask, I swear, is the last Sunday of this month, the 25th, feel free to come to our membership meeting. I will get everyone the dates and times. We are going to be announcing our brand new season. And we are also going to be talking about how this Twin Beach Players can help the community grow and thrive. So that's it. Quick indulgence.
No, thank you so much. All right. Do we have anybody else in the audience that would like to speak, or anybody online? Do we have anybody online? I don't even know where to look anymore.
We have a hand back there.
Yeah, you have, so we can hear your voice, Mary. And it's recorded, so we want to make sure we don't miss anything. What's that? Oh, yeah, take it with you. Now you have 3 minutes. The mic's turned off, so that's all right. We trust you. We know you, Mary. We're good. You could speak, and if you want to say a couple things, and whatever. I'm not sure what the subject matter is.
The Twin Beach Players
Oh.
have been performing since 1998 with no permanent venue. And I don't know if anybody here saw The Addams Family recently, but it was phenomenal. And that's what prompted me to start helping to find a venue for them. Chad already told you about how they use the gym at the Boys and Girls Club, which takes the space from them. So for a few weeks, the kids who belong to the Boys and Girls Club are not even able to use the gym. Okay. The Twin Beach Players have contributed to our community for more than 25 years. The time has come for them to have a permanent home and I'm wondering as town council members, what you can do to make this happen. I personally would like to see a new building erected specifically dedicated to the Twin Beach Players with space for other fine arts that already exist in our community. My voice is really bad today, sorry. Okay. What other town has so much culture, and yet no venue in which to perform? Twin Beach Players could share their building with North Beach School of Dance and the annual film festival, among other events dedicated to the arts. Okay, it's exciting to think of the culture and revenues a fine arts center would bring to our town. Imagine if the library had included a floor dedicated to the arts as was originally planned. We would already be realizing benefits such as increased revenues for the town, and our businesses would have realized increased revenues, and seasonal would have most likely ceased to exist. The Twin Beach Players could do so much for our town if they had a permanent home. North Beach wants to be known as the jewel of the Chesapeake. The title would seem much more honest with a building dedicated solely to the arts. That's my spiel.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have anybody else online or in the audience? All right, let's keep rolling. Let's move right into update from Calvert County Soil Conservation. I'm not sure if DB has anything he wants to add. They can come right up to the table and update us.
Not really nothing to add, but y'all are getting pretty familiar with our team from Calvert Soil Conservation right now. And I just wanted to say they took council's option 2, which was they took that out with, they went ahead and they came up with a design, final draft design for y'all see tonight. So they're gonna fill us in on what they've been working on since council decided they liked option 2 the best out of 3 that were committed at the last meeting. And with that, I'll turn over to them. They're gonna give you full design and some budget numbers and some other interesting ideas, I think.
Yeah. We have to turn the mic on.
You know, hear that without it. I heard you.
We're very loud.
All right. Usually we can hear everybody.
Thank you all for having us again. Like Donnie said, we have our final draft for you guys to review, and obviously you guys can make any changes that you want. You are our customer. But we wanted to present to you pretty much like a 99% of the plans, almost permit ready. Linda, if you don't mind going to the second page, or the third page rather. So originally when I came in, we had the breakwaters that were going to address the erosion underneath the boardwalk and stop the waves from hitting the boardwalk so hard and causing all the damage to potentially the gravity fed sewer pipe in those homes. What we also wanted to do was build as much reef as possible. And there is a possibility that permitting will require mitigation in some facet to offset the rock that we're going to be placing. So what we've done is split this up into two phases. Phase one is what we're calling a hybrid breakwater structure, which is, like we discussed last time, oyster reef below mean low water, and everything above mean low water is going to be visible, and it's going to be riprap. That riprap is traditionally used in breakwater structures. They're very strong, heavy rock, 1,000 pounds to 2,500 pounds. Waves have a hard time moving them. Outside of that, phase two, on page, all right, one more page, sorry. That's the existing conditions. So this is the layout of the hybrid breakwater structures. There have been a few changes to the design that increased the cost a little bit, but they were necessary. Originally, we had planned on using concrete slabs out of road beds, selectively cut, stacked up nicely. And after running some calculations on how much energy is actually at this site, we decided that that the rock might even get blown off of the concrete slabs because there's not enough friction to hold them down. So another opportunity of bridge girders, which are essentially the joist underneath bridges off the Schuylkill River, that material has become available. So we designed this to use that material, and we have confirmation now that we can use that material specifically for this project if you guys choose to move forward. There's a few benefits in this. Bridge girders are a little bit trapezoidal. So we're going to flip them upside down. So the bottom will be flat. They're about 5 feet by 19 feet long. And then what that does is allow riprap to kind of chink in. So it's really held there and it has no opportunity to have the whole thing slide off the top of like a slab or something like that. That comes at a cost because now there's extra void space, which requires a little bit more material. To offset that, we're bringing the bridge girders above mean low water within the reef core or within the breakwater core so that we don't have to pay as much for riprap. And we're really pleased with what this will do. There's about a 30-foot gap in between the breakwater structures. They're 114 feet long at the base, about 87 feet long at the top. And they're going to look pretty similar to the breakwaters that you guys have out there right now. And then the other benefit of using the girders is it gives us more interstitial spaces and a little bit ups and down areas for oysters to grow vertically and outward. And it also holds that spat-on shell and bags in there. If you go to the next page, these are the cross sections of this, and on the right-hand side, the layout of the different layers of girders. There's 3 layers. First layer is all connected together. The second layer has gaps in between, like originally planned. That allows water to flow through, allows for a little bit more flushing, and gives more surface area for oysters to set on and other fish and crabs to have a little bit of habitat and hideouts. The next page shows phase 2. Now this we don't expect you guys to fund completely, but rather maybe even opportunities for grants. This is the mitigation potential, but also just expands the oyster reef, which is good for the environment and good for long-term sea level rise and coastal resiliency. Over time, oysters will cover these completely. It uses the same girder materials. And then we're calling them reef pods. You can see that there's like sections out there. Each pod has 7 girders, and then we're going to have 100 oyster bags on there. And for reference, that can get us, depending on how many spat are per bag, we can get up to 1 million oysters in this small area. And that's an immense amount. And with the new BMP coming down the pike, there may be long-term potential to earn credits to pay back. And if you guys have MS4 or TMDL credits, we can apply for those as well. Those go out, I think, 288 feet shoreward. So not even past the third groin that's out there existing. It doesn't even reach to the fishing pier, but it will provide the fishing pier with a ton of fish and crabs and all that kind of good stuff too. And, yeah.
I guess the build on that a little bit, the girders, once it became available, we realized we could use less material. So we are going to get a little bit of cost savings with the use of the girders versus the slabs. Plus, the amount of the number that we need will provide for less manpower and installation. So it's kind of a win-win. Also, the girders provided us with an opportunity to raise the elevation from 3 feet above mean low water to 5 feet above mean low water, which really reduces the risk. Now, the 3 feet is basically addresses the 100-year return for a wave that will break on the shoreline. That's the problem we have here is when we have the high wave conditions, we have that wave breaking up underneath that boardwalk and the spray and everything else, and the resultant damage that's realized from that. With going up to the 5, we're still well beyond the 100-year, but as we all know, as experienced basically several times over the last couple of years, when we say, well, we have a 100-year storm, well, next month we have another 100-year storm. So the Engineering Society is going through a whole new way of recalculating storm events, the magnitude of storm events. Suffice it to say, the 100-year storm now, in the context of moving forward in terms of mitigation from significant hurricanes and northeasters, is going to be significantly higher. So by providing that additional 2 feet additional, provides us with a margin of error in terms of how we calculate now and look at future storm events. So that really helps us for the marginal cost increase to provide for another level of safety and security for the reach of the boardwalk.
And for reference on what 5-foot elevation is, the boardwalk's about 4.5 feet. When you go out to the finger, you can see it kind of raises up on the edge of the, like where, pretty much the top, like that finger that you can walk out and see all of North Beach and Chesapeake Beach. That's at 5-foot elevation almost exactly. So these breakwaters come up and no wave should be passing these and getting to the boardwalk to where it's going to be damaging the boardwalk like we've seen every October for the last, 4 or 5 years.
One of the other things we noticed when I was going through and looking at the design, in the deposition, for this type of setup, our intention is, and we feel very strongly, at least I do from the calculations and the modeling we've done here, is that we'll probably get a good significant sedimentation behind those breakwaters, which will give us a beach, which is conducive for the horseshoe crab migration that we have here. Very important. And that gap, I understand there have been issues in the past about the gap and the orientation of the gap and the potential of waves moving through that gap and causing erosion. Well, this kind of design that addresses the gap width being only 30 feet high. That width, based upon the width of the breakwater, provides for breaking of that wave. So we don't have the issue where we have a larger gap. And I've seen applications elsewhere in the bay where we have a larger gap between these two units, which provides for a conduit for a wave to reform and cause erosion problems. So we specifically designed the gapping to ensure that we would get that. We also, part of the analysis, I put a third unit in front of that gap and offset it, just to see what difference it would make in terms of flushing and erosion potential. It was negligible. It was negligible. So therefore, we feel very confident, I feel very confident that the 2-unit structure will do more than enough to prevent erosion and wave propagation and breaking underneath the boardwalk and subsequent damage and spray to the underlying infrastructure associated with the boardwalk. The other thing I wanted to point out, when I was looking at the sedimentation, obviously I'm looking at it in the context of that whole reach of shoreline, below the public beach, down towards Chesapeake Beach. And what was kind of interesting, and I was talking to Donnie about this, is that I know you have a periodic problem with reshuffling the sediments within that breakwater system for the public beach. Sand's not going anywhere. It's distributing itself. It's laying out flat. And it's caused, because you lose your beach. What you're doing over the long run is you're just smoothing it out as the waves continue to, flatten it out.
just fooling around with it a little bit in the modeling, a minor reconfiguration of some of the other breakwaters on the northern portion of the public beach that might be able to be reconfigured, and maybe some of that rock could be reutilized elsewhere. Because that little section there, the northwestern corner of the public beach area, you can see that that's causing sedimentation. That area could be reconfigured such that you could minimize the amount of continued maintenance dredging that you have within that system. So one of the suggestions that Donnie brought up is maybe perhaps in the long run, you should look at developing a comprehensive shoreline management plan. So in future work, when you're doing any dredging or reconfiguring or doing maintenance on the existing breakwaters, possibly realignment or relocation of that material might optimize your longer term maintenance costs associated with dredging. That was just an aside that came when we went through the analysis of looking at the design of these structures.
So, and again, council, obviously everybody can join in. So I have a couple points. Number one, absolutely. It's funny because we did dredge the beach at one time, and within a day or two, the storm came and took it all right back. It was 200 and some $1,000s gone. Those breakwaters, which I don't think those are, that's not, are they it right there for the north side?
The far west are two break.
Both south, all right. Right. Absolutely. So we had, as you know, we had the stone riprap on one side, it sank.
Yeah.
And then we built the wall there, and then the right has held up. It was put in theory to keep the beach safe, and it hasn't been safe since forever. So that's definitely something we can discuss. The horseshoe crab situation. I know on the other one, you were talking about the slabs and when you would have openings and the crabs could go through to get up on the beach. How does this, what is the way that the horseshoe crabs, as you know, they play a major role in our community, and
Well, we're going to have, you're right, with the original design with the slabs, we did have conduits through which the horseshoe crab could migrate to get through the structure itself. With putting the riprap on top, we kind of closed that whole possibility down. That's not to say below the mean low water line, because the riprap is going to be located above the mean low water line. And we have, a depth of 4 feet or so. But the nature of a breakwater is it's going to cause some siltation at the foot up from the toe, the channelward side of the breakwater at the toe. And it's probably going to fill in sediment about a foot or so. So we've really cut down the opportunity using the riprap for that migration. Having said that, we still have 3 inlets with those 2 structures. The main gap, 30 feet, and we have to the south and the north gaps there as well. So we do have migration pathways for the horseshoe crab.
And I'm pretty confident that they're going to figure that out. They are some of the oldest animals on the planet. And oyster reefs are completely natural to the Chesapeake Bay. It's Great Shellfish Bay. That's what made up the Chesapeake Bay. So they evolved with this. And what I've seen from other breakwater structures, as soon as the tumula, which is like the deposition behind, sometimes you bring that in manually and create the beach immediately, like we've seen Breezy Point, Neal Estates. Immediately after the breakwaters are installed and the tumula is there, horseshoe crabs use that for safe haven against oncoming waves, so that they can hang out in the middle of the day. Like that's where we saw them. When I was out surveying, they would leave as soon as the wind started picking up because the waves were kind of smacking up against them and disrupting their mating patterns. With this, it should lower all the energy behind there, so they should have more habitat, like a 200 linear feet more habitat to continue mating. And I don't foresee ingress and egress of horseshoe crabs as being an issue at all for this.
Yeah, so they'll probably hit the girder and sort of like, oh, a wall, and just follow the wall, no wall. So, because I've watched that happen on the beach before when we had the straight out breakwaters. You just watch them hit that and then sort of turn.
And what they're
just follow
goal
it
is
in.
to just go up. That's what they're looking for, is where is up, because up is the beach and the daylight.
I have a question about the bags of spat,
Okay.
which I've done this. So, but there is maintenance involved in that. As far as the bags, I remember them taking the bags and then distributing them to make the wreath. So how are you? I mean, are they just going to bust out of the bag? I mean, I think mine were in wire cages. So it was a little different. Like the cage would grow, 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 grow. And then you would take the cage and put it in an oyster bed out in the river or bay, wherever they were doing it. So I'm thinking bags, does that just bust and then dissipate? And how is this working?
Sure. So we're gonna be buying spat on shell. And I'm calling for the spat to remain in a hatchery setting for at least 2 weeks, a nursery setting. That would then get up to about a dime size. What I've observed in other people that have just put oyster bags with spat on shell in the water is that the oysters grow right through them. And within one growing season, you can't even see the bags anymore. So whether it's plastic or basalt, which is 20 times the cost, that is a consideration for you guys to choose what type of bag you would like, because that does come with a cost.
Well, yeah, that was another thing. If it's in plastic, then if that's not breaking down naturally, that could be a problem.
It could be, but also it does take a long time to break down. So there's like the positive side of that is it doesn't biodegrade. So it will remain intact. And it shouldn't affect the oysters at all because they're going to grow around it.
It's going to entwine it within the oyster, so they're not making the plastic susceptible of being.
Right. That's exactly the point. Okay.
But the perception of plastic in the water is negative. That is understood completely. And there is alternatives, but they're wildly expensive alternatives.
I want to go back to the horseshoe crabs for a minute. I'm not sure that okay, as a biologist, I mean, this is kind of down my wheelhouse a little bit. First question I have is, I do agree that you're going to get sand sedimentation in and around and behind these things. But I don't think that's going to happen overnight. So what is your expectation for how long it could take to build up?
Honestly, I think it's going to happen within a year.
Within a year?
You have such a sand deposit offshore here. And with the wave action being what it is, I think you're going to see that rapidly silted.
Okay.
That's what my modeling is showing me.
All right.
Take modeling with a grain of salt.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the whole concept of modeling. Modeling in my world is it's only as good as the information you feed in. So
I started off
30
years ago.
Yeah.
Model. But through my experience doing this, with the empiricisms that have been developed, they're a lot more predictive and accurate than the modeling is because of all the assumptions and the coefficients that you have to integrate into those efforts negates their accuracy a lot of times.
So, going back to Mickey's theory that, if these things will guide the horseshoe crabs too, because I mean, in looking at the design, and without those interstitial areas that they could go through, they're basically limited to just basically the migratory pathway. There's no, you can't get through any of those structures. You just have those openings to navigate through. So, and Mickey is right. Most critters that I know, fish and other animals, if you give them something where they kind of run up against it and they're like, nope, I need to go this way, guiding, not directly, a 90-degree angle coming up against it, and then they don't know where to go. But if you're coming up against something that's angled where they can they know which way to go, it'll work.
See, the beauty of that is during the summertime, your winds are basically from the southeast. So it's going to be rolling along that wall at that angle, the southern breakwater. So
Right.
It's going to push them along the predominant wind direction being southeast and the orientation of that. So you have a wave coming in like this, breaking along that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of the water coming into the system is going to be coming in the summertime from the southeast, which is conducive to creating a long breakwater flow, especially on that southern unit. So it's going to be pushing them naturally towards that inlet. that 30-foot inlet. The other thing is, if the sedimentation occurs fairly rapidly, you're going to see that fan out on the outside like that.
Mhm.
So it's also going to create a ramp
Yeah.
way up
Right.
that's initiated, alongside or going.
As long
across the
as long as they're approaching from the ends.
Correct.
I mean, if you look at this
Correct.
design, and I'm not against this design, I'm just, the breakwaters there next to the walkway, the pier,
Okay.
they have the wings. And so if you get crabs that are like coming in and for whatever reason, they end up against the face of the structure, they've got wings on each end that they might not be able to get back through. Right?
We can move those easily.
So, it's just, these are things to keep in mind with,
Do you see
Yeah,
it better?
He's talking about the fingers. We can just move them off the breakwater.
Oh.
That they're not.
yeah, I'm talking about the fingers that are
Yes.
base side, that if you get crabs that are back in behind that, I mean, they got nowhere to go. They got no way to get back to the beach.
Gotcha, yes. This was
So that would be something that would be,
phase two.
if there's a way to address that,
Yeah,
and
phase
so
two,
that,
yeah, address that phase two.
I was gonna say, where's your laser?
yeah.
It doesn't work on the TV.
Oh.
So Alan, you're talking
Yeah,
about like
those
that right there?
things,
Yeah, so you just
those
move
wings.
those
Yeah.
Forward some to give a pocket between the
easy.
main body.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if they end up in behind that and they got the wings on each side,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah, good point. Good point.
Very advanced.
Okay.
okay, so yeah, these right here. If you get crabs coming around over here, which is fine, they might come through here, however they get through all of these openings. But if you get them and they end up back in here,
I see what you're saying, yeah.
where are they gonna go? Cause they're gonna be, if you got waves that are coming in, they're gonna get battered up against that depending upon how hard the waves are and
Good
without having a way to get out.
Right. They serve pretty much no engineering purpose being laid out that way.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
You can move those off easily.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, the engineering aside, there's a biology here too that I think is important. So,
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Council, yeah.
Hello, good evening. I really appreciate the update. I think it's natural for these types of projects to have modifications, sometimes major modifications, and then obviously these unanticipated costs. My only ask of you would be to, kind of let us know in advance as much as possible, or kind of keep that on our agenda when maybe think ahead a little bit about unanticipated costs, like the spat bag issue, right? So that it makes me a little bit nervous when there's major changes, and then, so we're not subject matter experts. You're the subject matter expert. So I just love as much advance notice of issues like this as possible.
It's one of the nice things, I agree with you wholeheartedly, good comment, is with phase two, realizing that's going to come after phase one, we're going to have phase one in place first. Then we can observe this for a little bit to fine tune how we want to lay this out, to optimize any challenges we might observe during phase one. So these things being modular are easy to relocate, as Ryan pointed out. Most of the pods, the oyster pods, really don't have engineering significance. They're for reformation. Now, saying that reformation is also going to act to help attenuate waves too. So it does have engineering significance as an added benefit, but that's not the primary purpose of the oyster pods. So
I like a phased approach if it's not a time sensitive thing and it's not going to significantly affect the project, so we can kind of feel it out. I assume that every project you do has its implementation is different. Like we have the plan, but then we actually have the implementation. So
I've done with projects like this in the past, is I'll go in with the permit that shows the overall project. And the permit will lay this out that it'll be done in phases. And now the term is called adaptive management that I'd like to see incorporated within, engineering approaches to sustainability issues for shoreline. So this addresses that very issue.
Alan's
Yeah,
getting excited.
he's talks about the phased approach.
Oh my God.
I do a lot of things with adaptive management when you don't really know kind of, and how the first phase is going to work. The first phase may be great.
This is a way of covering our butts.
And to use the term adaptive management is, you don't often hear that term used. But it's the reality is that when you're working in phases, that's the reality because it gives you an opportunity to do phase one. And then, hey, maybe for a year or two, we can kind of watch and see what's happening. And you watch what's happening with the crabs and then move on to phase two or tweak phase two or something. So,
see, part of the permits usually now that I'm dealing with, we'll have a monitoring component tied into it. Then that monitoring program gives you that feedback loop for the second phase.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I didn't bring that up for the design yet, but I am going to be personally monitoring these. I'm going to be going out there and checking seed density. I'm going to be checking oyster growth and biomass increase and watching what the horseshoe crabs do. But I'm also hoping to get some scientific, because there's a lot of research gaps yet to be filled with artificial reef building for shoreline protection. So I'm hoping to partner with people like UMCES at Horn Point Laboratory and Chesapeake Biological Laboratory and Patuxent Environmental Aquaculture Research Laboratory. I'm already in contact with many of the scientists. We have a few grants in different areas that we're applying as partners in, like we'll build the reef. They do different components of research. That's something that we're certainly looking at right now.
All right. Any other question? Everybody good? All right.
For tonight, this is informational. We have no traction we need to do on this. This was informational update.
Informational update, but I would like for y'all to go ahead and make those adjustments that Councilman Kramer was talking about. I think it's a great idea. And then as we get through this, once we approve based off of their expertise, then the next step would be, obviously, we need to start looking at funding and you can help us with that, what trees to shake, where to shake them, how to shake them. Here's what we do know. This is amazing. It's needed. It's not a question. Is it going to get done? It has to get done. Every single October since I've been elected, we have had major damage on that part of the boardwalk. It has not improved. It's getting more intense. We're having less storms, but we're having more intense storms. Same thing with the Jersey Wall along Landic Avenue. When waves can move that Jersey Wall, you're doing something. Y'all got to see it firsthand this year, I think with Donnie down there. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting us information. I agree 100% with Michelle. Just keep us in the loop with the numbers that something's going to change. I know you will, but just make sure you do that. And then just let us know what you need from us. But get us the updated information. We do have one council member that's online, but it's not present here, but he is online. So we can make sure we're all on the same page with this. Do you have any questions or timeout? Yes.
Okay. They presented tonight, is a draft, it's not complete, and they'll take your comments and move forward, but you go through the permit process and you go to the permit date, I'd like to give them part of their day to go ahead and start working on the permit process once we get, if we think we're at 99% or feel pretty comfortable. We can start.
I think, other than the one little tweak, I think, going from the concrete road to the girders, we're still going to have the riprap. We're still going to have the oyster bed. You're just adjusting the whatever the word is, substrate or whatever it's all going to sit on.
Permit, once you submit the permit, it's probably going to take anywhere from 6 to 9 months.
Oh, yeah.
To get the permit. Because this is not a general permit. This is going to require a wetland license, which has to go in front of the Board of Public Works. We need to disclose all our Board of Engineers.
Sadly, we've been involved in those before, so we understand. As long as we cross our T's, dot our I's, it goes a little smoother, and we have all the confidence y'all will do that. Does any council members have, or ladies, men, if y'all need anything before we let them go? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, does Greg have any questions?
Thanks, Mayor. No, I'm good. I've heard enough, and yeah, I think we covered just about everything we needed to cover with them. So thank you, gentlemen, for putting that together for us. And let's just keep moving forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And that was very clear, almost like he was here.
Thank you.
I am there.
All right, let's move on to the next item, the Town of North Beach election 2026 process. And Linda's gonna spearhead this. You know, every 4 years this comes up. This is new. This is different. This is something new from the state. And that's the reason why it's coming to us today. Our goal is to present to you today, and then next Thursday, you give us the direction y'all want to take. There's a lot of information that has been provided. If we don't answer all your questions or you think of something different down the road, council, please reach out to Linda. We will get it in writing to all the council members, but tonight is about the presentation.
Ready to go? Good evening, Council. Linda Vassallo, Town Administrator. I'm going to walk you through really as briefly as I can on the changes. So as you know, the Town of North Beach has historically administered their own elections. In 2025, the state Maryland General Assembly passed State Law HB 22, which provides a provision for us to partner with the state to administer the elections. Regardless of whether we keep it here or we partner with the state, the town is going to be required to notify what the state of what our intent is going to be. So just before we jump into it, we've had a lot of questions about filing deadlines, what that does to our primary. Nothing changes. The filing deadlines to run for council or mayor is August 3rd, 2026. There is no primary in the town, which gives us a little bit more time for decision making. So what we're here to talk about tonight is, do you want to keep the elections in town, or do you want to partner with the state of Maryland to have them run your elections? So it really comes down to two options. And the first option is keep it here, which would require the council to appoint an election board by April 1st. We would distribute all the candidate filing information by the end of January if that was your decision. And I'll tell you why I want to get to the state process. And then we would determine whether or not we would use the state election machines or we would use an independent company to do that. If it stayed within town hall, your residents would continue to vote at town hall for the mayor and town council. Then they would do what they've done in the past and go over to the fire department and vote for the rest of the candidates in the general election. Right now, we have not budgeted to lease equipment for 26. This would be a 27 expense. I would recommend that if we do this, we engage those machines now and get this in the process, so we can talk about that based on what your decision is. If we go to the state-run election model, we would be transferring all of the election requirements, administration, everything over to the state of Maryland. You are therefore not required to appoint an election board. Your elections would be held only at the North Beach Fire Department. There is no cost to do this. The state has confirmed that. Stacy and I met with them on Monday. If we transfer that over, there is no cost. If the town decides to go with option one and we hold the elections at town hall, there is a cost associated with it. We can either release two pieces of equipment for $24,000, or the state of Maryland's fee would be $19,000. So it really comes down to whether or not the council wants to maintain the election in town hall. And if that's the desire of the council, we would absolutely execute that on your behalf, bring you back the recommendation next week to get our election board process in place. Or option two, to transfer in its entirety your process to the state of Maryland. We did have a question from one of the council members about what the ballot looks like. We would be with the state of Maryland on their ballot. It's all on the same ballot. When residents go to the fire department, they do what they normally do. They ask your name and address. There's no ID requirement there, never has been. So it really comes down to, do you want to hold it in town, expense the money to hold it, go to the state of Maryland, transfer all of your authority to the state? And we need to, regardless of what our decision is, we will need to send a letter to the state of Maryland notifying them of our intent. If the council decides to keep it at town hall, we just send a letter saying we're leaving it alone. This is what we're going to do. If it's option B, we send a letter requesting their support. It goes to the state board meeting next month. They make a decision and they come back to us, and then we move forward. That's it.
So obviously this is, there's a lot of information here because this is something different that we're going to address and approach. I will tell you that really, so if it stays here, we handle everything. I know she said that, but what I do want to add that if we turn it over to the state, we will be on their ballot. I believe also on the absentee ballot. Absentee ballots can be mailed out. But we will not be involved in any of the process if we turn it over to the state at the North Beach Fire Department. That's where we vote as North Beach Town proper residents. Individuals that live in the town vote. Yes. Early voting too. Thank you. He's Chesapeake Beach voting. So absolutely early voting, absentee voting, we turn it over there. If we keep it here, which has been the tradition of our town since day one, there is a substantial cost. And if you look in your handout, there's the machines, but there's also administration. So really tonight is get your questions answered, think about it, discuss, and then come back next week prepared, and we can answer questions throughout the whole week too.
Now, Mayor, one item I forgot to address, if you are transferring over the state, we will need a charter amendment, which we can do without issue.
I just have one question. I'm trying to get a sense of, has there been any feedback from any residents about having to go between two places to vote?
I'm not aware of any in the past. We certainly haven't had any that have come in since this law has changed that we're aware of. We have not done any public outreach on that, but we have not gotten. Have they? Okay.
I'm sorry, yes, there has been over the years. Some people, one election day it rained. So they went to the firehouse and some residents said, I wasn't stopping twice because it rained. So there has been, but that's a personal preference why they didn't stop, but there has been because they don't like to go two places.
But I can honestly tell you,
Some people do like, excuse me, Mayor,
Yeah.
some people do like to keep it in town too, some residents.
yeah.
So it's,
I mean, there's part of me that likes the idea of keeping it in town and having the control over the process and in terms of how it's all handled and so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, over the years, I've never had a problem going between two, and rain has never stopped me. But I suppose there are people out there that are, yeah, I didn't want to make two stops because it was raining. I don't know. I mean, okay.
I know I've gone through the election here as a participant on the docket 3 times. It's very nice to know that night who won. Because it's such small, like they can count the absentees and whatnot. And generally there's a delay if there's any really tight races and there's a question on the 3 or 4 provisionals. And I know compared to the other towns that I've talked to through the years of MML, we have a great percentage voter turnout than some of the towns. I think like our average numbers around like 500 to 700, like 500 to 700 people vote. And I think that's somewhere around 40% of our populace. So like of the voting populace. So like it's a high number. Like one of the towns that's in the Southern Maryland gets like 10% voter turnout pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of almost if it's working, you know.
Why rock the boat?
Yeah.
I know I went back to look at the previous budgets that I had from 18 and 22, and it looked like it was 7K one year and 5K the next year for money we put in the budget. Joanne, you guys can probably double check that number too. I just pulled what I had in my files. So we had a number, it's higher now, so.
Why is it much higher than it was before? I'm just curious.
Police election machines. Or,
Okay.
Well, the
I mean,
cost
it seems like a big difference from what Mickey's saying to what this shows.
So we've only run the election machine costs. That's for 2 machines to lease for the town. I think the machines are 11,400 a piece. We could do 1 machine. We have 400 voters, 400 give or take, so. And then the election board is paid hourly for the day that they're here, I believe. But you're talking specifically about the machines, correct?
I just pulled up in the budget what we had as election 2018 and then election 2022.
Let me check that. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'd say, Stacy, you
I think I-
you
I
handled all
can
that.
speak on behalf of that. In the past, the Coward County Election Board, they always let us use their machines at no cost. So with this new change in the law, they no longer allowed to do that. So that's what the cost difference is between past elections and what we're proposing now.
Well, and also, last year was Chesapeake Beach's election and they had 60 days notice and they had a major issue over there. Also, the cost is going to go up because of inflation and so forth, as we all know. Everything has gone up. I can argue either way, which way works. This will be my 5th election going into it, so I completely understand keeping it in the town or putting it over there. Either way, I'll go to both, but keep bringing your questions up. I see Michelle has something down there.
Yeah, can I ask, how many subscribers do we have to our newsletter at this point? Do we know?
I do, Kevin.
Just approximate, I'm
I think
sorry.
It's about 2,300. How many do we have? Do you know how many we have? 2,000.
Okay. I'm just wondering, would an effective PR campaign on this change sort of mitigate this issue of people being confused or not coming out to vote?
We're going to have to, I think we're going to have to do a strong PR campaign no matter what the decision is because of the law change. So the answer is yes. I think it would help mitigate either decision.
Okay, and then in that sense, I mean, $19,000 is quite a chunk of money, which could be used for several other things that I can think of. So that seems like a substantial savings.
No, you need to add in both of them. So you're dealing with over nearly around $45,000.
It's one or the other.
Oh, it's one or the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the 23.4 there is, we got independent pricing and we got state pricing to give you 2 options.
Okay.
That's just for the machines. That does not include the administration costs for the election board.
Yeah. I mean, this has been for as long as I've run it. This is always the question that comes up. It's like, why do we have to go to 2 different places? And I've never had a good explanation of that, or I could say something that people can actually buy. They don't understand it. And I know with Chesapeake Beach, they're an off year election, so there's not like there's anywhere they could piggyback onto. So they have to do that locally. We're in the gubernatorial cycle. Which is it's all going to be state. There isn't any federal, so we're not going to get swamped out by those folks, except for the representatives, really. I think this would be a good idea. Here's 2 questions I have. You said that there was supposed to be an amendment to the charter. What would that be?
I don't know if Karen wants to qualify it, but it's my understanding that we would have to specify that we are relinquishing our duties, our responsibilities over to the state for the election process.
So your charter addresses how you're going to conduct your elections. So you would want to put something in there to say, notwithstanding the provisions in the charter, if the council were to opt to go in this direction, it has the authority to do that.
Because as what I've read of it, it's rather vague.
It
of
is. It's
what
not very,
you just
yes.
go hold an election. Okay, good. That's great.
But it talks about your board of
And the
elections.
Board of Elections and
and
throws that
That's the
in.
main thing.
If let's say we do the memorandum of understanding, we go forward with this, is it revocable? Or are we forever going to be stuck with the state? Or if we try it, let's say 2 cycles and say, nah, we'd rather go back to where we are. Is there a way to pull out of it?
I saw one of the memorandum of understandings that's been proposed. I did not see anything that said that this is in perpetuity without, but I will defer to Linda because I know she's had conversations with the board.
We did not ask that specific question, but I will get that specific answer.
Because if we wanted to test it for 2 cycles or something like that, If it works, great. If it doesn't, we just pull back and we go back to what we're doing. So that's another reason why I'm in favor of it, to let's give it a try. And I was one who brought up the question about whatever ballot this is going to be. Because I get a little bit confused if it is just one ballot for Calvert County, let's see what it is that the state comes up with, is that it has our election on it. How many, and I'm worried about, will there be non-residents voting in our election part? Just because if it's on just one big ballot and a lot of people just fill out every single circle they can think of. And that's why I'm thinking as a addendum sort of ballot that's just, you give it to the North Beach people like the special menu that you get every once in a while, then you just handle it that way.
So we did ask that question today after I spoke with you yesterday. There is no separate municipal ballot. It's on the ballot, just like you would see the Board of Education on that ballot.
Okay.
It's right underneath. However, I think that there must be a way that they split that out, and we'll need to qualify it because they have to verify that you're a town resident to do that.
They did it last year. So what did y'all say? So, I'm also
Up to the mic.
I've also served as a chief judge for the county elections as well.
Tell me about your name.
This is Randy Getman. I'm Board of Elections for Town of Chesapeake Beach. And I'm coming to watch to see what you guys are going to do. I forgot about the issue I was addressing there.
It's whether it's a separate ballot, or just the unified ballot, and how do you prevent people who are outside the town?
I talked to the county the other day. They talked to Gail and Kristen. I talked to Kristen just the other day. And the way they're planning on doing this is there'll be a ballot that'll have the federal, the state, the town, whatever's on the general election. And at the end of it will be Town of Chesapeake Beach. Well, that'll be a numbered ballot as well. I don't know if you guys have gone to early voting for this town, state. If you go to early voting center, we actually have 60 ballots out there in the primary because you have Democrat, Republican, Independent, but you also have all the different precincts. When you go to early voting, you can vote at any early voting center. You don't have to vote at your specific precinct. On election day, you have to go to your specific precinct. The reason I'm telling you this is because those are numbered ballots. And when they pull you up in the poll book, a North Beach resident will get a specific number ballot. And so whether you go to an early voting center or whether you go to the North Beach, there'll be Chesapeake Beach voters that go to the fire department, and there'll be North Beach voters that go to the fire department. But only you'll get a specific number ballot. There'll be a specific ballot you'll get. The Chesapeake Beach residents that vote at North Beach won't get that same ballot.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions up here? And again, decision's not tonight. It's for y'all to ask what you can ask and then take it back. And then next week we'll talk about it again. The goal is to pick option A, option B.
I just want to confirm there's not really been any citizen engagement on this issue.
No, there hasn't.
It just came
Well-
up. So we,
And I did
Can I-
ask Mike earlier if, and this is a question for Kevin, about doing a poll, in town, if he could, the concern was doing a poll and having people outside the town vote, on our poll. Is there any way to just target our community or make it available to them? I don't know how you would do that. But it would be worth something if it was able to be done,
We can, with our e-program, we can target by zip code. I don't know that we can go down by street to make sure it's within that GIS range. So we would need to look at that.
we would extremely need to drill down because we have
Yeah.
investors that own houses here that
That's
cannot vote.
Correct.
And you're going to really open up a Pandora's box. And I bet you will have 15 people, 1,500 people that don't, that's going to give their 2 cents. But I would just be very careful. Now, I heard Councilman Dotson trying to talk. So go ahead, Greg.
Okay. No specific order here. The cost is not even 1%. I don't think we should be concerned about the cost. That's the cost of doing business when you're a municipality, when you have to have an election. So to me, that's not a concern for me. Secondly, call me old fashioned, but I prefer for the people that live here in the town to be able to vote for their elected officials in their municipality within their city limits. Just like there are some people that didn't want to stop twice to vote. There are some people that don't want to go down to the fire station to vote or can't make it down to the fire station to vote, but they make sure that they come to the town hall to vote for their local officials. I would love if we had, to me, this is another one of these things that we should have engaged last year when it was passed. And here we are again, just now at the tail end. I mean, the last amendment on this thing was March 17, 2025. So this has been out there for a while, and we're just now addressing it. So I'm not in favor of doing this. I think it should stay in the town where it is.
Councilman Dotson, just for actually for the council's benefit, we have been working with the state election board since August, September timeframe, just to iron out all the kinks on this. This law was passed as emergency legislation last March, I believe. I have to look at that, but we've been trying to lock it down. But we do have a little bit of time because we don't have a primary. So if we wanted to do some sort of public outreach, there is some time, but we are on a clock with the state. And mostly because we will need to appoint our own election board. That's really what's, Perrin, you want to jump in?
And the charter amendment, because
And the charter
remember,
amendment, yep.
you introduce it 1 month and you have to have public hearing, 21 days notice, and then 50 days after you adopt it. So you're talking about not being effective until May.
Yeah.
If we introduce it in February.
And Stacy, when I talked to you, when did you say you needed to have the election board?
April 1st.
Okay.
Sorry.
We definitely have time. I definitely understand where Greg's coming with keep it in the town. Also, when you look at the cost, divide the cost by 4 years. Don't think it's 1 year because elections every 4 years. So to think about it, take the number divided by 4. If you do it that way, then the number goes down substantially. But that's why we're here tonight. We'll talk about it again next week. We still have we can come back next month. We can have whatever. So it's not like it has to be tonight. You have all the information in front of you that staff has provided. Whatever is not in front of you, just call or better yet, email Linda, and then we can get it to everybody.
Yeah, because if I'm reading this bill correctly, it says the deadline is moved from 18 months before the deadline under state law for a certificate of candidacy to be filed for the application election to 9 months before the deadline under the state law for a certificate of candidacy to be filed for an applicable election. So counting backwards here, that's getting pretty close.
Yeah, one good thing for us, we don't have a primary. So you got to remember, the state of Maryland does a very good job making decisions without any concern about municipalities.
This is not about primaries.
Right, but that's why we have time. All right, any other questions before we move on?
I'll let you go out there and read it yourself, but anyway, that's it.
All right, cool. Anything else? All right. So think about your questions, concerns, get them to Linda tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, get it to us so we can have another discussion on Thursday. And then we can bring it back the following month too if we need to, or whatever y'all want to do. Just give us direction by next Thursday, worst case. All right. Let's move right into budget presentation.
All right. Council, I'm gonna kick off this discussion and then hand it over to Veronica Atkinson. But tonight we're here to present the staff recommended budget for fiscal year 27. As we have discussed, it's a responsible and balanced budget, and we're reflecting deliberate decisions to maintain our services and planning for all the long-term needs. Last November, we presented your 6-year CIP, and the council has been very active and engaged and very clear in directing staff to place a stronger focus on these capital planning projects and including the infrastructure investment. We have prioritized those capital projects, and we're working with staff to address your direction and make sure that those projects get completed. When planning this budget, we took a very conservative approach in projecting our revenue because we had some new revenue numbers coming in this year that Veronica will address. And we have a new approach in looking at our expenses and doing this in a real-time manner. The departments did an amazing job prepping their budgets and their finance team to reduce those expenses where they could, and there have been some reductions in expenses. When we looked at the expenses, it also included consideration for our multi-year contracts. The new financial software that you've heard us talk about repeatedly has allowed us to focus on those real-time expenses, which allows us to build that budget extremely conservatively and very responsibly because we have better control now of the day-to-day expenses where we had control, but the journaling is happening much tighter now. The fund balance we're going to talk to you about tonight on the revenue side is the amount of money that was left over from your town obligations for the last fiscal year. So we have used some fund balance in there. This does not mean that money's coming out of your reserves. It's just money that's left over from last year. So your rainy day fund, your reserve funds are not included as revenue in this budget. In 27, we are using that fund balance for very strategic and limited one-term items, not for recurring costs. So it would not be used against salary or anything of that nature. The water and sewer funds are balanced. They're self-supporting. We're sensitive to the unplanned repairs or maintenance costs that may come in and out. Donnie does an amazing job working with staff to make sure that we know what those expenses are. Preventive maintenance and long-term planning is right up at the top of our list. There's no new staff requested in this budget. We have built in a 2.5% COLA. I'll talk to you about that in just a second. We looked at the CPI for Maryland and the federal government is not finalized yet. So what we did is we looked at 6 different examples of the Metro DC area, Baltimore. We looked at Social Security. We looked at the national CPI, DC, blah, blah. Anyway, the average is 2.5%. And it's running between 2.4 and 3.1 collectively. So we went with the average number on that. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Veronica.
What's the time frame?
I'm
Because
sorry.
we're very, very early in this.
We are.
So we're very early.
We're very early.
So what's the date that y'all have to vote on this?
So they don't have to, we're asking for direction.
June.
So
No.
June-
My point is
in
today's
June.
January.
Right.
We have January, February, March, April,
Correct.
May.
Yes. Plenty of time.
So we are very early in this discussion. I just want to make sure.
So
So I want y'all to appreciate that. So, no. We were talking about it today because tonight is a presentation. We do not expect you to come back with 50 questions tonight. So over the next couple of weeks, couple months, get with staff, get with us. This is a 10,000 foot view. You can meet. I know Linda's met with some council members. Meet. Let's dig into it. But I just want to make sure y'all know that we have months to address these.
we have plenty of time, and we don't plan to bring back the council budget till March. And we're planning to take it to public hearing in May, and there's ample time to make adjustments.
Yes, this is very very preliminary. I'm Veronica Atkinson, and I'm the town's capital and budget analyst. So tonight, we're just going to go through and what we call is the staff recommended budget. That's always the first budget. Staff goes in, gives you all of the things they dream about, making the town even more wonderful than it is. And then we have to come back and see what we can afford. So it is very preliminary, but we just wanted to give you a look at basics, where we're at, where the direction we're heading in. So my presentation is the 2027 staff recommended budget. It covers the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund. The budget reflects and focuses on maintaining essential services, managing long-term obligations, and continuing infrastructure improvements while preserving the fiscal responsibility and stability of the town. My second is an overview of the agenda, which we've already passed. Thank you. She's rushed me along. No, I'm good. This is an overview. We're good. This is an overview of the 4 primary funds that the town operates under. It's the general fund, water, sewer, and capital improvements. Last month, I think it was, we came out and we did a preliminary on the CIP, the capital projects that we're projecting for next year. Tonight, we're focusing on the operating, and we are emphasis on revenue sources, expenses, and long-term debt. The general fund remains the most flexible and supports core services like public safety, infrastructure, and administration. My next slide is here's our general fund revenue. So it's a 5% increase over FY26 currently. And our property taxes, we've left them flat. I mean, like you said, we're very early here. We have a we do revenue diversification, and it continues to reducing reliance on any single revenue source. Our gaming and machine revenue remains a significant and stable contributor. Our beach-related revenues continue to be an important seasonal driver. Any questions? And our total is $4,941,555. Next, this slide is a pie chart that shows the revenue and how it's distributed, what percentage it makes up of that total. Taxes, miscellaneous revenues, our fund balance is sitting in there. The mix highlights both stable base revenues and strategic use of reserves. This is our general fund expenses. This is where the fun is. This is what the departments, this is what they handle. They come to us with what their requests are. Some of the costs seem extremely higher than FY26. You see some large percentage numbers there along the right-hand side. Some of that is realignment. When we transferred over from the old system to our new system, there was a difference in the way it's handled, and the accounts roll up into what's called a bucket account. And those buckets, we've realigned a lot of those based on the departments and their use of those line items. So that's why you see some of that fluctuation there. But again, it all boils down to a 5% difference. Our marketing expense increased significantly, but that's supporting all the public engagement and economic activity. Currently, a lot of our software, renewal, annual licenses, all are falling under that item. So we've had a request, council has given a direction of maybe putting all of those software IT costs into one line, which for the general fund we can do. We just would not be able to do that for water and sewer. We'd still want to break those out because we'd have to do it at the end of the year. Our salaries, as Linda spoke about, we just did a 2.5. It's a proposed amount. That's all. Here's our pie chart. It's the same situation. It shows the expense distribution and our continued prioritization of infrastructure and public works. And we have a healthy contingency reserve for unforeseen needs. Our next slide. This is our long-term debt. We have 3 remaining. We're so excited. So they'll be paid off between 2027 and 2028, which will put some money back in our coffers, which will be nice. But they supported major projects that the town needed, infrastructure. Can go to the next slide. Trying not to bore you guys. Water and sewer. Nobody likes to talk about numbers. Water and sewer funds. So a brief overview. Our water and sewer funds are designed to be fully self-sustaining. Revenues are generated through the user fees, neither one of these funds are supported by the general fund. We do not transfer money back and forth. The primary goal is to maintain and operate the system, replace aging infrastructure, and meet all public health and environmental standards. We have a lot of testing that goes on with the water and sewer funds. Our next slide will be the water funds revenues. The total for the water revenue is $583,835. The water fund revenues decreased slightly by 2%, and it's driven by lower tap and connection fees that they're projecting for next year. Water fund expenses. Of course, we balance, so it is at the 583,835. Keep everything balanced. Our increases are showing in training, water line repairs, and overtime. The overtime is based off of where we're at currently and then using that to project out till June. And we have bond principal payments, and they continue as scheduled. Our next is our sewer fund, our water fund expenses. I just went through that, didn't I? Yes. So we want to do revenue, sewer revenue. Thank you. The sewer fund's revenues remain stable with only a 0.32% increase from the prior year. That number is $1,192,000. Our next slide is the sewer fund's expenses. There's a slight increase of 0.79%, primarily due to treatment and operating costs, utility expenses, and our obligation on the ENR loan principal payment remains on track. Our fund remains balanced and self-sustaining. So we are asking all of you to help support and assist us, and we're going to need some input from each of you about our maintaining the 500,000 council contingency in the general fund, which we put in this year and have used a little bit of it for some special projects that came up, emergencies. We are using the prior year fund balance. We have that as a revenue line item as well. That's open for discussion as well. Our salary increases. We also are looking to you for the direction on that percentage. Do we remain where we're at, or we move it up or down? Sorry. And as the mayor said, and Linda corroborated, staff will return in March with the final recommended budget and a CIP. A public hearing is planned for April with an adoption targeted for May. All of our funds right now are balanced. So any changes we make, we have to make them on both sides. If we change up the revenue, then I'm going to have to change up the expenses. So please just remember that. But do you have any questions?
I do want to pass on. So one of the goals I've always had here is to make sure that we relied less on Annapolis and DC for funding, grants, bonds, and so forth. We will apply, we'll do what we can, but as you can see in our neighboring areas around us, Annapolis, major cuts, major deficit they're in, challenges the counties are having. Our goal was always to be self-sufficient, strong financially, because a budget, as much as it's painful to say, works just like your home budget. Less money in, less projects out. So we take every nickel, every penny, every dime very seriously, and our staff looks at everything. We've done everything we can to make sure that we are overseeing every expense to provide the best quality service to our residents. This budget, this presentation between Joanne, Veronica, and staff shows you that we drill down. We drill down. We really work hard to make sure we meet these numbers. Do I think there's some challenges coming up? I think so. I think HURs that are inside of a lockbox that somebody else has a key to, gambling revenue that we get. I will continue to champion and continue to fight for the state to give us 1 cent of the 6 cents that they charge in sales tax. What individuals don't know out there in the public is that we don't get a sales tax. So when businesses come here or business comes here, it is wonderful for our business, but the town covers the cost. There is no income to us. None. Zero. Zilch. So when what I've been fighting for 15 years is to get 1 penny, which we did a rough number that would bring in additional $700,000 of a sales tax that we do all the work for, that the state does not. But I've gone through 3 governors. I've talked to 2 comptrollers. My point is that I and we will always work to make sure that the numbers make sense for our town. And sometimes you might look at it and say, why? Because we've analyzed it, we chatted about it, we've talked about it, we've dissected it over and over again, because we understand that every service that we have in this town has a dollar amount attached to it. And we do not have all these revenue sources coming in, and we will not have them coming in. We have a legislative session coming up, I think on the 14th. And I believe a couple council members, please hang out with me. You'll see what I say. But at the end of the day, the state has their battles, the county has their battles, and we as a town of North Beach will continue to focus on our residents. And this budget is proof of that. So I want to thank everybody. Tonight was a presentation, but we have many more discussions coming up. Does anybody have anything you want to ask staff before we call it a night?
Are there prepayment penalties on the 3 bonds we have outstanding?
Yeah, we looked at that. I didn't think
There
isn't.
They're not.
Okay. Honestly, I was thinking of what we have in the rainy day fund and what that is against that, if we just wanted to wipe those off and just enter the next term with those not on the books.
Discussion.
Yeah. And Greg would probably ask it too. I know he asked about that.
Greg and I both asked that
Yeah,
question.
yeah. It's knowing that also if we may look at the CIP and go, hey, we might want to go out of bond for that. So we may erase that and replace with something else too. So that may hit when we look at the CIP as well. So
Absolutely. All good questions. No question. What else? Anything else?
So I have a comment about the COLA and our relationship to that. It's on the theme of human capital investment. I think my colleague used the term cost of doing business, and I want to emphasize that human capital is as important as every other infrastructure that we are investing in. We cannot do the job without high quality staff. We have to calculate retention. So it is important as roads and bridges. We would not defer the maintenance on our boardwalk or on our sewer system. And I really don't think that it's an option that we should not keep up with the cost of inflation for the employees of our town. So I'm arguing for the 3.1%. It's a basic human decency that I really don't think should be negotiated. It shouldn't be up for negotiation. I think employers have an obligation to pay employees a livable wage, and we are not doing that today.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to definitely address the COLA issue here. I think those that have been around on the council know that for each budget that have come up, I've always encouraged us to go above what was recommended in the budget. However, 3.1 is definitely way above where we should be at. How should I put this? It's a delicate situation, but you have to understand that unfortunately, when you work for the government, the pay isn't that great. I know that because I worked for the government for 45 years and I didn't expect to live a certain level because that's just not the way it works. We've been very generous to the staff, always have been. And again, like I said, I've always been one to push for whatever was recommended to be way above that. You can check the record for that. And if I remember correctly, we just passed a very generous package for insurance last month or the month before. So looking at what's going on right now, I myself think that we need to stick. This is going to be one of those years where I'm going to have to go below the 2.5 and recommend that we go with 2%. Again, we can discuss this further and talk about ways maybe we could convince me to increase it, but right now that's where I'm stuck at.
Hearing that comment, I'd like to also ask where we might be able to find additional funds related perhaps to some questionable numbers we have now about the sewer and water, and whether there is areas where we could cut or investigate to kind of find more funds for the cost increase.
We could, I would probably advocate, well, I would advocate steering away from the water and sewer funds because they're self-sustaining for the most part. We do and have started to accrue and report the unspent leave, and we're counting for that annually. We could reduce that line. We carry that a little bit higher than most jurisdictions do now. I think last year's budget was 200,000 and the number's a little over 3 this year, close to that. So we could reduce that line item and still be safe with maintaining the leave payout. So because we look at that every quarter, we're tracking what is sold by the staff, so we could reduce that number a little bit.
The cost of the 2.5 versus the 3.1, do we have any estimate of that?
We can get all those numbers because I think we need to go a little higher too. So why don't y'all work on getting the numbers?
I'll send them out.
Yeah, we can get them all out to y'all, like
Something-
3.1.
Exactly.
Just whatever the numbers are.
Incrementally by 1/10 each time, and what would it be as you go up, and what it would be, because that way we can modulate maybe and figure out where we're
Right.
gonna go.
We have them, we'll get them to you.
Good question. All good questions.
40% of DPW's salary does go to water and sewer. So it's the remaining part that we keep over in the general fund. So we would have to make an adjustment as well on that side to accommodate that increase. But, you know, we can figure it out. I'm very good at creative financial thinking. We'll figure it out. And we also, you know, Stacy's constantly looking for grants to help offset our expenses. And we've gotten some pretty good ones, and she's looking at some others for this fiscal year as well as next fiscal year. So as long as that doesn't dry up, I think that's helpful too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the COLA is definitely something we're gonna have to have discussions about. But I'm also kind of don't understand. Well, the council contingency is something that I think we want to talk about a little bit, and I don't understand the relationship between that line item and the rollover funds that are there that was mentioned.
So I'll try to explain that as simply as I can, and Veronica might have to clean me up. But so the fund balance is money that staff or the town did not spend in the prior year's budget. That's going through the audit process. We know what the projected number is. We would either have to reduce our number for the budget by the projected use of that fund balance to match the expense on the revenue side and return all of those funds back to your savings account, or you take a portion of that fund balance, which we've recommended to balance the budget. So it's just money that was not spent, was left in your checkbook.
But hold on.
Correct.
Hold on.
But
There's still projects and things. I mean, there's money that maybe they didn't fully go through and
Right.
finish it in that fiscal year. So just because it's left, it doesn't mean that it's not committed to something,
Committed.
right?
I
mean, to a point.
they are not exclusive of open purchase orders. They are not
Right.
included in that.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So I mean, it's not like we have this leftover money sitting there.
No, it's what was not spent. We've pulled out the purchase order funds that we've already encumbered because we have ongoing projects. The council contingency, the two are different things. The council contingency is basically a fund that we have set aside for emergency projects or projects that the council has decided that they wanted to accomplish that were outside of the scope of the budget or the scope of the CIP. And it helps staff not have to go find that money within the budget, because sometimes there's just no wiggle room on the expense side,
Right.
particularly on DPW. So that's why we put the contingency in.
One last thing too. We do not follow the federal government when it goes use it or lose it. All right. And we all know, I was in the Marine Corps, Greg was in Air Force, we were military. We know what that, and you're in
And-
federal government. We do not go to our staff at the end of the year and go, hey, you got 10,000 left over, go buy something.
No, we say-
First of all, I would fire everybody in here. I think it's the most horrible thing to do for other people's money. And we would never do that. So at the end of the year, we look at when they sit down there after meetings, we're trying to figure out what went well, what didn't go, what we need to do to improve to provide more services. But we do not record it on TV. Do not use it or lose it in the town of North Beach. And for those who worked for the feds, that's a living, dying thing they do every single year. We know it. So we do not do that. I think it's corrupt.
No, you're correct. And that's a win for me.
Good.
We have money left over. That's
Yeah,
how I
yeah.
take it.
It's taxpayers' money. It's not ours.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Mayor, did you want me to mention constant yield? Me, okay. So, I said mayor, I'm sorry.
That's gonna be my next question.
The constant yield numbers are not out they haven't been provided us by the state yet. We're going to obviously recommend to leave it where it is so that the taxes don't go up. So that will be in your March budget. You'll see that come in. But I did get a question about that, but that's why you don't see it in here, because we don't have the numbers yet. But it's not our intent to go higher.
Yeah, I think we need to address that because it depends on how much comes in from that. If it's pretty significant, then we need to have a discussion about that because we definitely should be raising it, but depending on what that is and what the budget looks like, you know, there comes a time when you're sitting pretty good, you need to return something back to the taxpayers. Something to chew on. So think about that.
Any other questions? Staff, you have anything you want to pass on? We good? All right.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, that's the end of it. Yeah.
Before we adjourn, could I motion that we have a presentation on the Black Box Theater at the February work session?
Yeah, it won't, yeah. Just send a request to Linda. Yep. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? So moved to have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All right, so
Aye.
moved. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Greg.